We are recording.
All right. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about the tendency that people have to get in the weeds and kind of go down rabbit holes when it comes to trying to improve their health. I see conversations on social media. I participate in answering questions and dealing with people almost on a daily basis who are all over the place with things that they're trying to do, and they're often just missing the basics, right? So, people are spending a ton of time trying to figure out, hey, what food can I eat that's going to take care of this specific problem? What exercise can I do that's going to help me get this specific thing? And there's usually a bigger picture, kind of more simple solution that can handle that, or kind of will cover that if they just did that. I'm sure that's something that you've seen. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have. And You've been in different realms. You've been in the PT realm as well. So what's some of the stuff that you see on that end?
Well, on the rehab side of things, a lot of the people in that environment are frustrated, right? They're in pain sometimes, right? And so with these high levels of emotion, they're extra sensitive, and they're also more impatient. And so, when those people tend to want the immediate quick fix, which, any of us in pain can understand. We hate pain and want to get out of it. And so, it's common in the rehab world to imply that particular movements will fix, will cure, even though, we hesitate to use those words on, in print. It still gets discussed, interpersonally. That, hey, your lower back pain is caused by blank, and if you do these 3 rehab exercises, every day for the next 3 days, we'll fix your lower back pain. And sometimes a statement like that can end up being true in the sense that it relieves a symptom of pain, but it essentially never is true that those magic 3 exercises are actually addressing the etiology of the original pain in the first place, like the actual cause of the pain.
Right.
And I mean, these things, even in like on a holistic coach level, which is where I've moved over the years, sort of defining myself. I can think of like personal examples where, I am a person who does believe that all things being perfect, that if I could limit the amount of radiation that I'm surrounded by, amount of times I use a microwave, or how much exposure I have to EMF radiation. These are things that are well studied and well documented that are deleterious to our health. But it would be a mistake in my opinion, for me, where I'm at in my life, to get caught up in those details right now, because use the microwave as an example. I'm out and about all the time, right? And so I don't have stove or a place to prepare food throughout the day. I bring my food with me wherever I go, and then I either eat it cold or eat it warm. And if I eat it warm, it's microwave. Is there some harm in me doing that? Probably, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm doing so many other things that are helpful to my health. That am I really going to get caught up in arguing over whether I should microwave my food, or this cell phone that I have here emits radiation, and you open the package and it says don't put this thing right up against your head because we know it's harmful. But so is the radiation from my computer and the monitor, the microwave, and all the blue light around here and the cell phone tower. So like, really, I'm gonna get caught up in the cell phone, because if I'm really gonna escape any of this stuff in any meaningful way, I gotta go out in the fucking woods and live like a hermit. So, but I'm not doing that. So why am I caught up in it?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things where I get frustrated, honestly, with this whole biohacking movement and how people get caught up in all of these gadgets and tweaks and hacks and all these things. I think it's interesting from a scientific standpoint to understand, you know, even when we talk about things like red light therapy, cold therapy, weighted blankets, mouth taping, like there's all these different things that you can do that could show some benefit. But when you start focusing on all of these extra little things, then what happens is the number of things that you have to think about to keep track of what you're doing, right? I need my probiotics for this. I need to eat this because it helps this hormone. I need to eat this because it helps this level of some weird micronutrient that nobody ever heard about before, and whatever else, right? The list of things you have to focus on, not even focus on, because you can't focus on it. You just have to have a list.
Yeah.
Right? Here's all the stuff I've got to do, right? When you really just need to think about, well, am I getting enough nutrients in general? Am I getting enough protein? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough activity? If you don't have those things locked in, if you're skipping workouts, if your sleep is horrible, if all of these other things are going on, then why are you worried about your microwaving food or red light therapy or who knows whatever else?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you're describing something that it's like on paper, there may be good reason to do or not do something, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if the listeners just take a moment and think about what a day might look like if you had a long list like this that we're implying. I mean, it's a full-time job. Like, how do you live? Like, the name Ben Greenfield pops in my head. Like he's made a living of basically being a guinea pig on different topics. Like he uses his body and his mind to explore ideas, and I appreciate it. I look up to it, but it's literally his full-time job, just seeing what happens if he changes various behaviors or
Yep.
gets involved with certain gadgets. And the average person listening to this discussion, like they already have a full-time job, they got a family, they're looking to get hit the most basic level of health and fitness.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be turning this into a full-time job. And if they do try, my opinion, it's sort of a distraction from actually making any real change.
Absolutely. Because the focus for most normal people is quality of life. And if you're spending all of your time stressing over every little hack and trick that you can find in the book, then what kind of quality of life is that? Because now you're focused more on, I don't even know how you classify what you're focusing on, because you're not focusing on living your life.
Right.
You're focusing on trying to control every little variable that is just locking you into, it's actually more restrictive than actually just go out and enjoy yourself and just get the basics in place first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think if we talk about fitness and we correlate that to fitness, not just health in general, mm-hmm. It's kind of the difference. And we've talked about this a few times, the difference between fitness and sport, mm-hmm. right? For most people, they don't need what you would consider sports training, right? It's one of the reasons why me personally, I've been a CrossFitter for almost 10 years. I never really liked the idea of calling normal people at a gym athletes, because they're not trying to be. I don't know most people, particularly in the 40s, 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, who are trying to do CrossFit or trying to get in shape to be athletes. They're trying to just live their life as best as they can. So that whole concept of doing fitness to become an athlete just doesn't make sense to me. I'm doing fitness so that I can live my life, have fun, enjoy my kids, go for hikes, and do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the process is different. When I'm thinking about functional fitness, I'm thinking about moving my body in a way that is sustainable and safe. That's it. I'm not thinking about high performance. I'm not thinking about needing to do weird, funky movements and the coolest, greatest thing to develop speed and power and agility. Who cares? Right? I want to be able to bend over, tie my shoes, and not throw my back out.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that always comes back to the basics and
Right.
consistency. It's like picking a handful of things you generally enjoy and address what you need, and then not making excuses regularly that you didn't get it done. Right?
Because there's going to be times when you don't get it done.
Sure. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the beauty of dialing in the basics, right? Is that they're so powerful. They take care of so many different aspects of our overall health that even when there are periods of time where we are inconsistent because life creates them for us, we can't control everything. We tend not to slide backwards very quickly as a result of those moments of inconsistency.
Yeah.
But if we never were consistent in the first place, then we end up spinning our wheels and not necessarily getting anywhere.
Right. I like the idea of, there's two phrases that one is a traditional CrossFit phrase, right? The magic is in the movement. Mm-hmm. And then the other one that I say all the time, that I don't know where I got it from, I don't know if I made it up or not, is that everything we train trains everything we train. And if you focus on the basics, if you focus on just being consistent and moving well, when we talk about fitness and moving well, you can alleviate a lot of potential injury. You can alleviate a lot of chronic pain. You can alleviate a lot of things without having to focus specifically on those things, right? If I learn how to deadlift properly, then anytime I need to bend over and hinge and pick things up and do stuff in that kind of a position, I'm going to increase or decrease my risk of hurting myself. I don't need to do other specific things for my low back because I'm not going to hurt my low back to begin with. Right. If I learn, we did some videos recently on bracing. If I learn how to brace properly, that just bracing opens up a whole range of things that you can do and not have to worry about getting hurt.
Right.
And that's a basic breathing and stability technique that everybody should be able to do. That just being able to do that increases exponentially the number of things that you can do more efficiently and without getting hurting yourself. So there's little things that cover broad areas that instead of, if you focus on those, the effect is way bigger than if you focus on all these little things out here.
Right.
And it's just, the effort is so much easier.
So to give the listeners like a concrete example of what you're saying that developing the control and skill of using abdominal bracing would lead to, if we developed that control, we developed that ability to manage that within our bodies, then you're saying that if I go, push some sleds around, carry heavy things around, if I go squat a moderate amount of weight, any number of movements I could list right now, all of them become a bit easier to perform and less risky to perform, all because I took the time to learn how to properly perform one thing, which is in this case bracing. Yep. And then I simply applied it to a wide variety of things I already have in my life.
Right.
Yep. Good example.
And that's what we talk about. That's what we mean, I think, when we say work on the foundations, right? That's a foundational thing that everyone should be able to do.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, the impact on everything else is crazy. And that's why both you and I think we both focus a lot on the basics of movement and understanding how to move properly before you start making things hard, because there's so many things that are transferable in how we move, right? We talk about movement patterns. So if I can teach someone how to drive power through their heels, drive power through their feet properly, that transfers to 7, 8, 9 different, 10 different exercises that they can then utilize that same method or that same process and see a good result in a whole bunch of different movements, as opposed to trying to teach specifics of all of those movements. Here's the basics. Do this and you're going to do better.
Right. And the same basic idea could be applied to really anything, but in the world of nutrition, for example, right? It's like you and I, if people followed us around, like in our day, we eat, two different styles really of meals, right? Yep. But they each work for us. And what is a very, very common thing between you and I and others that we look up to is we put a lot of emphasis on eating real food, things that actually spoil and rot relatively quickly, right? So if somebody's out, somebody listening is out there trying to improve their overall health and working with, say, nutritionists, well, if that person's living mostly off of packaged foods and convenience foods and takeout stuff, right? Well, getting caught up in counting calories and weighing food and worrying about the macronutrient stuff, maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we just simply set a goal. Hey, look, I'd like you to try and take a percentage of the food you're eating now and let's shift it to some sort of real whole foods that you would enjoy, but you get to pick them. You get to pick them based on like taste, because what we know for sure across all different styles of nutrition throughout any culture, the more we align our food choices with that of nature, like we have this trickle down effect of all sorts of health benefits. Right. So why get caught up in the details if this particular individual is so lost in the world of fake food? Let's just start with the super basic. Let's eat a little bit more real food.
Yeah. I like the idea of talking about fake food, because particularly now, not even particularly now, but over the years, and it's just as, I think it's maybe worse now because there's food companies have kind of realized that if they market to specific diets, that they can sell more food if they just put a label on something. It's still fake food. And it's really hard to get people to understand that just because there's a label that says this is heart healthy, or this is, this is keto friendly, or this is whatever, even stuff that, there's, for all the people that say vegan's the best way to go, some of the vegan processed food is some of the worst ever. And it's still processed food. Mm-hmm. It's not real food. So it doesn't matter. It's like people that I know that are vegetarian or vegan and their diet consists of donuts and pizza, vegan pizza. It's like, I get it.
Fits your label, right?
I get it. It fits your label, but it's not like what's the difference between someone who's not vegan and eats the same things, right? It doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's I like it. Fake food is fake food, guys. Really, I mean, that's if it didn't grow or have a mom, then you probably shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, and you stick it out in if it's unrefrigerated and you let it sit out for a few days and it's still unchanged, like it's fake.
Yeah. Right, like the 20-year-old McDonald's meal that they've got, right?
Yep.
Cool. What are some of the things? Let's just talk about nutrition, I guess, first, since we just talked about that. For me, the most fundamental outside of real food is I look at nutrient density. I look at bioavailability, which is the ability of your body to actually get the nutrients out of the food. Mm-hmm. And then satiety, so food that is filling so that it helps you regulate yourself. Your body has everything in it that it needs to regulate how much you eat. Mm-hmm. If you're eating the wrong things that kind of specifically circumvent that process, that's part of the reason why we overeat. So if you're eating natural foods that have the enzymes and the stuff in it that trigger in our body, hey, you're good, you don't need to eat anymore, then you're great. So those are the three things that I look at: nutrient density, bioavailability, and satiety. Is there anything you can add to on the nutrition side?
I'm 100% on there. Like, I mean, it's real food, and then like the list you just gave. Like, I really rarely focus on calories and macronutrients. I've really not found, I mean, it's like anyone can change in a very short period of time something, right? It's like, I get annoyed when people debate with this calorie counting thing, because everyone knows that if I don't eat today, I'm probably going to be lighter on the scale by the end of today, right? But it didn't prove anything. It didn't actually change my body
Right.
in any meaningful way. And so that what works in the short term doesn't necessarily work in the long term, and the long term is how we're making sustainable changes. So I'm not sure why the conversations are often still caught up around the math of of you know calories and
Mm-hmm.
macronutrients, because in the human body it doesn't over the long run work out the way people intended, and most people just end up getting frustrated and kind of lost in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I focus on exactly what the list you mentioned, um, and I think it's hard to go wrong if people can do that and find foods that they generally enjoy and don't consume their life with like time to prepare.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I mean, yeah, that's one of the reasons I love the way I eat, because it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
I go shopping, I get my stuff, I shop for it's like 10 minutes in the store, I come home, it takes me 10 minutes to make my meals for the day, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
What about fitness? What are some of the foundational things that people need to look at fitness wise that can kind of bring them back to center and not have to worry about all these other little things all the time?
Well, I think it's worthwhile if people were trying to design their own idea, like their own programming, let's say at home or something. I think it's worthwhile to just simply think about, start with basic movements that we all perform in daily life.
Yeah.
So we walk around and carry things. So it might make sense to pick up heavy things and carry them around in a wide variety of ways. We have to sit on and off a toilet and get down low to the ground. So probably should squat. We need to pick up heavy things. So deadlift. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we got to pull our bodies up, over a fence or something. I don't know, so some sort of upper body pulling thing, you know, um, push something overhead or push something some direction out, because sometimes your arms got to push some stuff in real life, right?
Yep.
Your car got stuck in the snow and you gotta help dig it out and push it back onto the road. I mean, so if people just start by thinking about, well, what kind of things generally do I do in life? All right, well, then what exercises that are just, the simplest of exercises can I learn and
Mm-hmm.
sort of improve my ability to do those daily life tasks? And it's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the emphasis on trying to move properly is, for me, kind of, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're not doing it right, you're not helping yourself. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can lunge all day long, but if you're doing it in such a way that you're using a movement pattern that's not, number one, targeting what you're supposed to be targeting, what you're trying to target in that lunge,
Mm-hmm.
you're setting yourself up for injury, for plateaus. You're not going to develop the way you want to develop. You're going to hit a wall way faster in your ability to perform the movement, and you're not learning movement patterns that you can use in other exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then for me, that's the biggest thing: transferability and the ability to learn something. I think that's where a lot of the power in the CrossFit model comes into play, because you're trying to fit so much into an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you only have someone in the gym, maybe the most, I think, average is 3 days a week for most people across the gym. You may have some people that come in 6 days a week, but on average, it's 3 days a week that people show up.
Right.
So you're trying to fit in 3 hours a week, all of the training that somebody needs to maintain and improve their quality of life. So how do we do that? We do that by using basic movement patterns, hinging and squatting, like you said, hinging, squatting, pushing, lunging, all those types of things, so that we can train it on Monday. And that same thing we practice on Monday, they get to use again on Wednesday. They get to use when they go home. They get to use it wherever, because it's patterns that we use all the time. And if you learn how to do them right, not just at the gym, right? This is one of the things that if anybody's taken any of my classes, they've heard me say, because it's the most common thing I see. We'll spend 20 minutes in class doing deadlifts, right? keep your back flat, stick your butt back, put your weight through your heels, you know, all of that kind of stuff. They do their deadlifts, everything looks great. And then they finish class and then they go to take the plates off of the barbell. And it's like everyone totally completely forgot how to deadlift. Right? It's like, guys, you're doing a deadlift. This is not just because you're not doing the exercise at the specific time doesn't mean the movement requirements change. You're still bending over, picking something up. You should be in a deadlift when you do that.
And the weight doesn't even matter too.
Absolutely.
Like there was a year, my very first CrossFit competition, I was teaching my kettlebell class 3 days before I was supposed to drive up to Connecticut to compete. And we did the class. We were cleaning up the kettlebells and putting them back into a neat order. And I picked up a pink 8-kilogram bell, and I completely did what you're talking about. You know, like I completely disregarded how I was picking it up in the first place. And it didn't even dawn on me at that point in my life. So this was 10 years ago, that I was at risk in that moment. It really didn't, because I had this arrogance because I was like over a 500-pound deadlifter. So to me, I saw that pink kettlebell as not a threat, right? But I picked it up, boom, like one mistake in being sloppy. I was, it doesn't even matter how I picked up, but no, straight up just stupid way to pick it up. And I paid for it. I can remember one training session where this is funny to tell. I was training at my old gym, and I had a hard training session. Everything went great, but afterwards I was exhausted. I was going home. I pulled up to a gas station to get gas for the car. But you know, if my hand here is the pump, when I pulled in, I was unusually far away from the pump, and I was like, man, I should be like, whatever, I'm too tired, I don't care. So I got out of the car, and instead of just walking over to the pump to grab the pump and put it in my car, I sort of stayed by my car and like did some weird long reach thing because I was tired and just too lazy to take a step. And then boom, back went out again. So an hour later, I did all this hard training and paying attention to my movement. And then my idiot self goes to pump gas and hurts myself because to me at that moment, it didn't matter. That was stupid.
Right. And you hear it all the time. Most of the people that I've worked with over the past several years that get hurt don't get hurt in the gym. They get hurt. You know, I wasn't paying attention and I bent over and did this, or I reached around the end of my car, I reached back to get this and did this. Like there's just so many things that, you know, you have to keep in mind that what you're doing in the gym is training for real life. Don't forget how to move when you leave the gym.
Right. Yeah. In the motto of the gym here is form above all else. And I completely agree with you that so my earliest like focus in my life was martial arts, and in dance and in gymnastics and martial arts, there's this general process of learning movements that are very complex, and they always look clunky and slow and awkward in the beginning. But as a person's like developing their skills and their coordination, an outside observer watching this person develop is going to see a gradual change in the quality of their movements, and it's going to look more fluid. It's going to look what I would consider beautiful. So what I always envisioned is that the most ideal philosophy anyhow around learning any movement, not just dance, martial arts, and gymnastics, is to allow and seek out with intention that kind of process. Like that is why the form above all else is on the walls here, is that, to your point, if you're doing a deadlift, a pull up, a row on a concept 2 rower, I mean, name anything. And if the outside observer can honestly say that you look very fluid, relaxed, beautiful, coordinated, almost like a dance is being performed in front of them, like that's a person who has values their health and their fitness in all things that they do, because of that big overarching concept of move well and the rest will fall into place.
Yeah. And I would argue that somebody who moves well and can do the work, regardless of how fast they do it, regardless of the weight that they're doing it at, is in better position and in better, I would say better fitness in general than somebody who looks like crap, has a bunch of poor movement, but can do a lot of weight or do it really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do stuff a lot faster in a workout if I let my form go, but I'm going to get hurt and I won't be able to work out as much as I do now. Like I work out 6 days a week now. If my form goes to crap and I just say, screw it, I'm just worried about how fast I can get this done, I guarantee you within a week or two, I will be hurt and I'll have to take a week off.
It's true. Like because I run a gym, right, and I have classes that are supposed to start and end at certain times, I sort of feel forced to use a clock. But there are times where I feel conflicted with using a clock, where if we could just take away this focus on how fast somebody does something as a metric, but I think in the long run, outcomes will be much better. But it's like, but then how do I, as the business owner, how do I put that into the experience without having people annoyed that class doesn't start on time or end on time and that kind of stuff,
Yeah, well, I think there's also benefit, and that's a hard one. That's maybe a discussion for another day, is why do we have the clock? Because I think there's also a purpose for that, in making sure that people understand how to scale, in understanding that, look, there's different metabolic pathways and there's different time frames that we need to be able to work in. Some of them are short, some of them are long. And if we don't have some stuff that's time bound, then we kind of miss that. But I do get where, there's a culture, or not even a culture, a philosophy shift. Each person needs to kind of do some self-reflection, kind of say, what am I here for? Am I here to improve my quality of life? Or am I just here to try to be the fastest and the strongest? For whatever reason that is, like, which I don't, everyone's at a different place. So
if you want to be the fastest and strongest, you go ahead and do that. I'll see you in probably 2 years when you're busted up and you need help.
Right. Yeah, really, seriously. Or maybe less, right?
Yeah.
Maybe less.
Yep.
When you realize, hey, that the best way to become the quickest and the fastest and strongest is to move properly first, and then develop as you progress through that movement.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, like all the high level CrossFitters, particularly the ones that have the most celebrity, they tend to be that way. And then the high in the sport of weightlifting, one of the most fascinating things, in my opinion, is to watch a person, someone who can clean and jerk, let's say, over 500 pounds, which exists for those who are listening to this and don't realize it. That same person can take an empty barbell and 500 pounds and make them look the same.
Exactly.
And you're like, what the hell? Like, how?
Right. Yeah.
But that's how skilled they developed their ability. Just it looks no different.
That's why the phrase really drives me crazy sometimes. And I get where people are coming from when they say it, but I'll do better when I have some weight on the bar. Right. It's like, no, it's not how it works. PVC pipe, empty bar. If you can't do it there, then you're not going to do it.
Right.
You're not, because anything you do with heavier weight, it means that you're compensating because you can't do it naturally.
Right.
And we don't want compensation. We don't want to train compensation. We want to fix compensation and train properly.
Right. Which is very much like your example of if somebody's in a CrossFit class and they're trying to just move as fast as possible, it's like, what you're saying is, we get it. We see you're moving as fast as possible, but in order to do that, you had to compensate in some sort of way to accomplish the fastest possible. And now there's going to be downstream consequences of that over time.
And that is an individual decision. Is that what you're there? You have to understand that you're taking that risk, not being as sustainable in your routine, potential injury, whatever else, but, maybe getting a stall and not progressing as fast as you think you can. or want to. So, I mean, it's all those things come into play, but that's, you know.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. I think we're good. You got to go coach
Yep.
a class over there, right?
Yep. Yeah. So let me hit the stop button. Yeah.
See you guys.